Baruch Hashem, we're at Mishnah on the bottom of 76b, starting a new chapter. Starting the new chapter of the carbon Toda offering. HaToda Haisabah, Hamesh Sain Yerushalmios. The Toda would come from 5 dayin of Yerushalmios, which is the equivalent of Shehin Sheish Midbarios, meaning to say the same amount of grain in the wilderness was called 6 seah, but then they made the measurements bigger, so in Jerusalem it was called 5 seah. It's just the same amount, they just changed the measurements. Shtei ephos, and that was the equivalent of 2 ephos, and epha shalosh, and the epha was the equivalent of 3 seah, esrim isaron, and the Toda came from 20 isaron. The Shtei ephos came to 20 isaron. So each epha was 10 isaron, and asarel chametz, asarel matzah, 10 isaron of flour for chametz and 10 for matzah. The Thanksgiving offering was the offering that was brought if you had a big miracle happen to you, if you were recovered from illness, you passed through the desert, the sea, or you were released from prison. Asarel chametz isaron l'chala, and v'asar matzah. And so 10 for chametz were 1 isaron for the challah. As we'll see that the total offering had 40 loaves. 30 of those loaves were matzah, made from 3 different types, and 10 of them were chametz, made from 1 type of loaf. So 1 isaron for each chametz, and 10 isaron for all the loaves of matzah. There were 30. Over matzah, shalosh minin. The matzah, there were 3 types. Chalos, Rakikin, Revucha. Chalos, which are thicker loaves, Rakikin, which are thinner, and Revucha, which are scalded. There are other opinions about what Chalos Rakikin are. I'm giving you the majority. Scalded with water. Nimtu Shlosha Asronim Ushlish. So there were 3 Asronim and a third, L'kol Min V'min, for every single type of matzah loaf. Ushalosh L'kol Min V'min, V'shalosh Chalos Isaron, and 3 chalos for each isaron. Umamida Yerushalmios, but if you measure it by the Jerusalem measurement, hayu shloshem kav, there were 30 kavim, chamisha asar l'chametz, 15 for the chametz, chamisha asar matzah, and 15 for the matzah. Chamisha asar l'chametz, kav umechta l'chala, and the 15 for the chametz were 1.5 kavim for the chala, chamisha asar matzah, and 15 for the matzah. But since in the matzah there were shalosh min, and there were 3 types, chalos were kicking a revucha. So the math is simple. Nimtu chameshas kabin kol min v'min v'shtei chalos l'kav. There was 5 kabin for each type and 2 chalos for each kav. That's the math. If you just look at it, it's pretty simple. They're just doing the calculations because for every 3 matzos you need 1 chametz for the toda. Everybody with me? So Toda Haisa Ba Chamesh Sain Yerushalmios. The Toda came from 5 Seah Yerushalmios, which were 6 Midbarios. Minani Mili, what's the source? I'm Rav Chizda, I'm Rakra, because there's a pasuk in Ezekiel that says Ha'efa va'abas token echad yeh says that it says in Ezekiel that the ephah and the bas is a measure of volume of liquid. They had the same amount. They could all the same amount. Ma bas shalosh seim, just like the bas was 3 seah. Af ephah shalosh seim. Also, the ephah was 3 seah. Bas gufa minon, and how do we know that the bas itself was 3 seah? If you want to say it's from the fact that the text says laseis maaser hachomer habas efo. Laseis maaser hachomer habas efa nami yaksiv lasiris hachomer vaefa. So the Gemara says elachomer lo yadana kama. So, but I wouldn't know how much the chomer was. Hachanami lo yadana kama ella. So what's the source for the idea that the bas is the same amount of measurement as the ephah? It's based upon the fact that it says v'achok hashemen abas hashemen in Ezekiel maaser abas menakor aser sabatim chomer ki aser sabatim chomer. This is telling us the law of the meiser of oil, that the bas, which is the measurement of the volume, you would take a tithe from the barrel, and so since we know that a core is shloshim seah, we see from here that a bas is 3 seah, and the pasuk tells us this is a 10 batim for the chomer, which is the size of a core, and so therefore he's going to take 1 bas as meiser. So therefore that's basically the equivalent. So Amar Shmuel. So now we have a general rule. Shmuel says, Amos sifin al midos. Let's say we want to change the amount of the measure by adding it. Like we said, it started off as 6 Amid Barrios, and then it became 5. And so basically we're 5 Yerushalmios. So we're changing what's is changing the amount of what it's called. The amount is staying the same. We're changing what it's called from 6 to 5. But you know how to do this as Shmuel if it's more than a 6. Now, basically, let's say, like they do this all the time. Let's say you buy a bag of potato chips or you get a toothpaste, and the toothpaste was, let's say, $5 about a tube of toothpaste, but now they're giving you much less of it. Notice that they're giving you much less toothpaste. So you know how to do that, the amount that you get, you know how to get it, you know how to change it more than a 6. You also can't change the value of a coin, the purchasing power of a coin, more than 6. And somebody who wants to make profit, he can't raise the price more than a 6. My time, and what's the reason why we can't change the measurements more than a 6? If we're worried about what's called inflation, if that's the case, also we shouldn't even add a 6, because even if you raise it a 6, you're going to be raising the prices. No, you mean price fraud? Well, if it's price fraud, any amount that you're lying to the person about, you say I'm selling you 3 and you're really only selling him 2, any amount is going to cancel the deal. Because we don't want the sale canceled. If it's a price fraud, is where it's not and you cancel the sale for price fraud, it's called ona. That's where you say, I'll sell you my sweatshirt, and really the sweatshirt's worth $20, and you sell it to him for more than a 6. You sell for him for, let's say, $30. But here, if you say I'm selling you 1 sweatshirt, and say you say I'm selling him 2 sweatshirts, and say you sell him 1, then for sure cancel or even if you say I'm selling him 10 and you sell him 11, and you say sell him 10, not 10, and you sell him 9, that's just lying about the amount that you sold him, so it's canceled right away, even if it's less than a 6. Now let me show Tagra. Well, maybe this is a takana for the merchant who's buying crops from people, and he takes them to the markets to sell them. So that therefore he's not going to get a loss. So we don't want him to lose his profit, and we assume that the merchant, generally speaking, raised it by a profit. And this way, he's going to buy something and not realize that he's overpaying by a 6 or up to a 6. But that's still not going to help him, because the merchant doesn't want to just break even. The you think he just doesn't want to? He wants to make a. You think he's just worried about not making a profit, but he's satisfied with breaking even? Zabin v'zabin tagre. You think he's going to go into business just so he could have the title of a merchant? He wants to make a living. He needs to make a parnasa. Elamar Rav Chisda Shmuel Kra Ashkach. Shmuel said you can't raise the price by more than a 6 from the pasuk, which it says in Ezekiel with respect to the value of a money. It says Vashekel Esrim Gera. It says a shekel is 20 gera, and also Esrim Shkolim, Chamisha Vesrim Shkolim, Asar v'Chamisha Shekel, Hamani Yelchem. Meaning to say, when you count up all the Shkolim in this pasuk, which is 20 gera and 1 shekel and 20 shkolim plus 25 shkolim, that's 45, plus another 15 shkolim, and then it comes to a mana. So we see from here that 60 shkolim is the amount of a mana, meaning to say it's a total of 1 mana is the equivalent of 60 shkolim. But the Shmuel has a problem with this. No, each shekel is 4 zuz, and if that's the case, mana, each shekel is 4 zuz, so it's now a shekel. So we say 60 shekels should not be a mana, but it should be masam harbayin avil. It should be 240 zuz, not 100 zuz. Ela shmamina to us. We learned from this pasuk 3 things. Shmamina mana shalkadosh kafel ayu, that the mana of the holy, which was what Ezekiel was referring to, is double. That mana of Kulin is worth 100 zuz, but the mana of Kodesh is worth 200 zuz. Shmamina mosifna amidos ve'mosifna yoter mishtos. We can add on to the measurements, but we can't add on more than 100 zuz. Shmamina mosifna amidos ve'mosifna yoter mishtos. Shmamina shtusa bavad. That you only add on 1/6. So that's what we learned from this idea. And Amar Avina Masnisin Nami Deka. Indeed, we can learn this from our Mishnah. The Katani Atoda Isabah Chamesh Sain Yerushalmios Shein Sheish Midbarios. And this is what our Mishnah is telling us, that the Torah came from 5 of Jerusalem, which is 6 wilderness, and that's an additional of 1/6. And so that's the concept there. Okay, we're going to start the next Mishnah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam kol niyeh b'dvaro. Mikulam hayonotel echad me'asar. Mikulam hayonotel. Hold on one second. Mikulam hayonotel echad me'asara truma, from all these 4 types of, remember we said that the Thanksgiving offering is 4 types of loaves of bread. From all of them, he would take 1/10. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Just give me 1 second, everybody. Somebody call me about something. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so we're on the top of the Mishnah, 77a. Mikol ma'ayanoto echa me'asara truma. From all of these 4 types of loaves for the Thanksgiving bread offering, you would take one from each of the loaves. You would take 1 out of 10 as an offering to the Kohen, as a gift to the Kohen. It says, "V'kriv mimenu echad mikol karban truma Hashem." You shall take from all of them from mikol karban truma Hashem. Echad. Shelo yitol paros. What does it mean from the word echad? That you can't take a portion of the bread; you have to take the entire piece. Mikol karban, shekol karbanos shavos. That all of the karbanos should be the same number of loaves of bread. And what does it mean? Meaning to say that all of the loaves of bread, there's to be 10 from each type. And shelo yitol mikarban al chavero. And you can't say, okay, we're going to take for one of the Kohen. Let's say you can't bring from one of them 5 and the other type 15, but each one has to be 10. A Kohen is the rekas adam hashamim lo yeh, meaning to say that the chalas and the truma go to the Kohen, one type from each of the types of bread, and then the rest is eaten v'ashar nechal abalim, and then the rest is eaten by the owners. So the owners get 36 loaves, and the Kohen gets total 4. Tana Rabbanim, the kriv mimenu, it says you should bring it from the Thanksgiving offering, mina mechubar, that you have to do it, put them all in one utensil when you take them. Echad, meaning to say you put them all in one utensil and then you give one. And echad shelo yitol paros, that you can't take a broken piece. Mikol karban, shekol karbanos shavos, that all the karbanos should have the same number of loaves. Shelo yitol min karban al chaver, that you can't take from one karban over the other one. Truma Hashem. What does that mean? I don't know how many loaves you're supposed to give. Already done. Nemar kan truma. It says by the lachmei toda truma, but nemar trumas meiser. But by truma meiser, which is the truma that the Levi gives to the Kohen, he gives him 10%. So it's 10%. So maybe we learn it the other way. Nemar kan truma, but nemar bikurim truma. It says also we're bikurim truma. Malawan English here. Just by bikurim, you give as much as you want. You give as many bikurim as you want. Bikurim is no shear. What else is no shear? Peya bikurim, milos chasadim. These have no shears, no amount. Afkan English shear. So the Gemara says niro midoma, which it's more similar to. Done in truma she'ina chareya truma, mitruma she'ina chareya truma. Ayu yalchichu bikurim she'achareya truma. We're going to learn something from something which has no truma after it, which is the trumas meiser, but not from bikurim, because there, even though you gave the bikurim as a gift to the Kohen, you have to give other truma afterward. Maybe it's just the opposite. Done in truma nechalos b'makom kodesh, mitruma nechalos b'makom kodesh. We maybe learn it out from the truma that's eaten in a holy place, i.e., the toda has to be eaten in Jerusalem, from the bikurim which is eaten in Jerusalem, and al tochiach truma smeiser shenechalos mikol makom. But the Kohen who gets the truma smeiser can eat it anywhere. So we have a pasuk. Tam omer mimenu truma Hashem. Uksiba truma smeiser mimenu truma Hashem. Uxera shava. So we have a word, a pasuk, to compare it to the truma smeiser that you could give 10%. Homanu truma sheyecha miyasara avol ini yodea mikama he chala. I know that you have to give to the Kohen 1 out of 4, but I don't know one. I mean, one from each of the 4, which is 10%. But I don't know how many chalos there are. I already done nemer kan lechem, nemer lalom b'shtei lechem lechem. So it says lechem here, and it says by 2 loaves lechem. Malalon isaron lechem. Just by the shtei lechem, it's each loaf of bread is an isaron. Also here, afkan isaron lechem. Also here, it's an isaron lechem. Or also maybe just the opposite. Nemer kan lechem and nemer lechem aponim lechem. It says over here lechem, and it says by the lechem aponim lechem. Malalon shnei esronos. Just like over there, it's 2 esronos. Afkan shnei esronos. Also here, it's 2 esronos. Gemara says nirami doma. Which one is it similar to? Dana mincha haba chametz imazevach. Mincha haba chametz imazevach. So we learn from the lachme chametz, the toda that comes with that. There are only 2 offerings that are chametz in the Beis Hamikdash: the lachme toda, the chametz loaves of the Thanksgiving, and the 2 loaves of bread on Shavuos. And so therefore you prove from each other. And don't learn from the lechem apanim. Sheino ba chametz imazevach. That doesn't come with chametz with a carbon. Gemara says, so maybe it's the opposite. Done in mincha ba me'aretz v'chutz haaretz. Maybe we learn it from the Thanksgiving offering, which can even come from outside of Israel, and also mina chadash mina yashin. It could also come from the new grain and the old grain. And mincha ba me'aretz v'chutz haaretz mina chadash mina yashin. We learn that from the lechem apanim, which could also come from outside of Israel, and also from the new grain and the old grain. And don't learn that from the 2 loaves of bread on Shavuos, which could only come from the new grain. That is the essential offering from the new grain and from the land of Israel. So we have a brisa, we have a pasuk teaches us from your dwelling places you should give out 2 loaves of bread. Why did it say the word tavio? Whatever you bring from another place, from that's similar to 2 loaves of bread, should be like each other. Just like by 2 loaves each an isaron for challah. So also here by the lachme chametz, it's an isaron challah. But by the 2 loaves of bread on Shavuos, it's a total of 2 esronos. Maybe by the lachme toda, it should also be a total of 2 esronos. Afkan shnei esronos. Tamomer tiyena. No, so each loaf of bread, there are 10 lachme chametz is an isaron from that word. Amanu asar chametz. This teaches us that it's a measurement of flour. It's a measurement of flour. So amanu asar chametz. So we understand that the 10 loaves of bread that are chametz for the toda come from 10 esronim. Asra matzah, but the 30 loaves of bread, 30 loaves of matzah for the lachmei toda also come from a total of 10 esronim, meaning each matzah is 1/3 the amount of the challah. So how do we know this? Tamulomer al chalos lechem chametz yakriv karbano neged chametz have matzah, which means that the matzahs have to be equivalent of chametz. Nimtzu esrim esronos lelachmei toda. So asar chametz v'asar matzah. So the total of the Thanksgiving offering is 20 esronim, 10 for the chametz and 10 for the matzah. Says the Gemara, Yachol, I might think asar shematzah yakun el minachad. I might think that all the loaves of matzah, all the 30 loaves, should come from the same type. Tamomer imal toda yakrivenu v'ikriv al zevach hatoda chalos matzos pulos b'shem revkei matzos mishchem Hashem and tzos merbechas. It says 3 separate types. Rikikei matzos, chalos, and morbechas. Nimtzut shlosha esronim ushlish l'kol min v'min. So there's 3 esronim, and a third for each and every type. Meaning to say, since we have 20 esronim and we're dividing into 30 offerings, since we have 10 esronim, we're dividing into 30 different loaves. It's 3 1/3 esron for each type. Excuse me. It's shlosha esronim ushlish. So there's 10 esronim going into 30 loaves. So it's 1/3 for each 3 esronim and 1/3 for each type. For each of the 10 loaves, each 10 is divided up into 3 1/3, and shalosh chalos isaron, and 3 chalos for each isaron. And so, because it's 3 1/3, make 10. So 3 chalos for each isaron. Nimtzu lachmei toda arba'im. So there's 40 loaves. 40 loaves is an enormous amount. You got to bring 40 chalos. Each one is an isaron. Imagine that. You make a big party, and you have 40 chalos here to serve with a sheep, and everybody's eating the sheep. No tummy and arba, and no saying lakohen bashar nachom labam. Take out 4 of them, so you only have 36, and you have to give it to the owners to eat. So basically, you have a big party. You're doing a lot of pita bread. Amar Marvi, hikri mi menu. You should bring the offering that you have to take the chalas together when you give them before you give them the coin. When you give the emurim to the, since the word mimenu, you want to say there it's attached. Don't chop up the meat before you put the fats on the altar. It says truma here, and also by Chumas Meiser. And why don't we learn Alpha Michumas Midjan? There it also says, what's a Chumas Midjan? That is, it says that you have to give 1 in 500. And here, why are you saying it's 1 in 10? The Gemara says, well, they are done in Truma Nolegas Ladoros, Truma Nolegas Ladoros, Chumas Midjan, Chain Nolegas Ladoros. That was a one-off. Chumas Midjan was a one-time tithe. Here it's regularly. Why not we learn that from challah? How much is challah supposed to be? 1/24th of a gift to the Kohen. So maybe that's what it should be. Done in Davar Shenemar Bo Mimenu Chumo Hashem, Davar Shenemar Bo Chumas Hashem. Afuke Chumas Challah, Donem Bo Mimenu Chumo Hashem. So you have those same words. By Rava, Achme Toda, let's say these Thanksgiving offering that you gave to the Kohen. So normally, if a non-Kohen eats from the Kohen's truma, he gets death from heaven. So let's say he eats this bread that was supposed to be given, that was designated for the Kohen, and a non-Kohen comes along and eats it. Is he going to get misa, the chomesh, and plus does he have to pay back the value plus 1/5, like a regular trumas meiser? Or maybe he's not. Do we say kivin the iska shel trumas meiser, since it's compared to the trumas meiser, trumas meiser dummy, or dilma bo? Or maybe it's only the Chumas Meiser and it's limited. And also midamas. Do we say that if it falls into chulin, it prohibits it away to midamas? Mar says we'll leave this question unresolved. We leave this question unresolved. All right, did this a little quickly, but we'll do the daf again tonight. Baruch Hashem, right after mincha. All right, everybody have a great day. Yashakoach.
Thank you. Shavua